Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Disrupt Your Now, the show for entrepreneurs who are ready to shake things up. This week, this is so funny. My guest tonight, Scott Perry, is in another small town in Virginia. He's in Floyd, Virginia, which a lot of y'all music lovers and hikers and everything have probably heard of. But it's so funny because the way we met is we were on a global mastermind. And Scott introduces himself. He says he's in Floyd. I'm like, what the heck? I'm over here in Halifax. So, welcome to the show, Scott. I'm so happy to have another small town Virginian on here.
Well, it's thrilling to be with you, Lisa. I don't know if you remember me telling you this, but our mutual friend Laurel Portier
Mhm.
gave me your book as a gift, along with Nick Peterson's book, like just maybe a month before we actually met online. So
Uh-huh.
it's like it just feels like it was fated that we were going to have this conversation today. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, that's so cool. And I love Nick's book, by the way, Bumpers. I
Hmm.
felt like I was like, oh my God, this is written for me. It was amazing. So, to introduce you really quickly, Scott is an encore life coach. He helps people in midlife make it their best life by helping you uncover or rediscover your soul's true passion and turn it into a part time coaching business. So, Scott, I want you to tell the audience a bit about your background. I know you've had a very varied background. I want you to tell them kind of where you came from and how you got to where you are today, and then we'll talk about now, okay?
Sure. Well, I went to school in Maine to become a teacher. My life was saved in some ways by some really great teachers that I had very early in middle school, seventh, eighth grade, and they're the ones that introduced me to the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius and the Bhagavad Gita, which are two texts, ancient spiritual texts that have really informed and inspired everything I've done since. I got out of college and went into education, taught at some famous schools that people might have heard about, discovered that teaching, I wanted to be Robin Williams in the Dead Poet Society, uh, only to find out that you spend most of your time as a teacher arguing with administration and playing hierarchy status games with the people in your subject field.
Mhm.
And so I exited education after 5 years or so, did a couple of different things, but then ended up pursuing my passion, what had been my passion up to that point, which was music. Had a 25-year career as a professional guitarist, owned a guitar studio, corrupted the youth of Floyd by teaching at least 1,000 kids how to
Oh,
play
that's
guitar.
cool.
And then
Excuse
I
me.
started to have this inkling that there was something else out there for me. I wasn't sure what it was. Through just a series of coincidences and misfortune and opportunity, I collided with Seth Godin, became a coach uh, in his programs for 5 years, and during that time was really afforded the opportunity to fall in love with this coaching thing, which I had
Mhm.
never thought of before, but also to really put together my process and my program. And so I'm wrapping up my tenure as head coach support in Seth Godin's Akimbo workshops, and now I'm doing this encore life coaching where I'm helping people that are 15 years on either side of where I am age wise. Do just like you said, turn their midlife into their best life by taking their hard-earned wisdom and experience, turning that into a part-time coaching business that can earn them a living while they make a difference.
Scott, excuse me, I have allergies. I love, the common thread of education. A lot of people and it's kind of obvious in yours, but a lot of people have a common thread that they never even recognize. So I think just by you talking about that, it might get people's gears turning to kind of take a step back and look at what are the commonalities throughout their life, whether it's something they like or don't like. They're both just as important.
Well, that's one of the important lessons of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a book about hearing and heeding the call of vocation. Your life is talking to you because it wants to speak through you. You were born with a unique gift that I call it the difference only you can make.
Mhm.
And most of us figure out over time how to get most of the way there. But the problem with pursuing calling is that if you're an inch off, you might as well be a mile off.
Yeah.
And our lives never make really sense in the way that we're taught to engineer them. Like, oh, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to put the blinders on and grind my way toward that end. But when you get to midlife, when you're in that 40 to 65 period,
Mhm.
you have, probably done most of what you're going to do in terms of career advancement and achievement. You've
Yeah.
raised a family, if that has been part of your life work. And when you look back, you tend to see that there is that common thread that you were talking about. There is a kind of a silver thread running through your life, an arc. And I
Mhm.
do feel like, in many ways, that teaching, coaching has always been part of. Even when I was a musician, I was always the band leader. I was always helping people achieve their potential as musicians, but also as human beings, and being
Mhm.
able to get together and do this wonderful thing of making magic on stage and creating celebration and sharing this gift with audiences. And so I feel like in many ways, I won the lottery. I wanted to become a teacher. I taught at some really famous schools. I wanted to become a musician, which is almost impossible to do.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Did that for 25 years, supported a family of four,
That's
paid for it.
amazing. That's
Yeah, exactly.
amazing.
And then when I decided to make a shift again at age 50,
Mhm.
was able to negotiate that in a way that, allowed me over a 5-year period or so to transition from being this, very happy, and having this experience of having a fulfilling, meaningful music career, and moving that into this new career, and was able to eventually retire from performing, close down the studio, and step into this other thing full time. So again, I feel like I won the lottery. I recognize that I have been the recipient of a lot of privilege that's not extended to everyone in the world.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, feel like at this, what I part of what I am charged to do is to help people recognize that privilege is not a finite resource, that opportunity is not a finite
Mhm.
resource, that there is abundance all around us. And the more that we open doors and opportunity for other people, the more opportunity and privilege we make available for even more of
That
people in the world.
that is so true, and I love that you said that, and I also wanna point out that, yes, we both are privileged, but there are so many people who are privileged, but don't know how to take advantage of it. So you can be privileged, but still not be any better off. So, and you mentioned earlier about meeting Seth and getting involved in that, and you referred to like I don't remember the word that you used, but like bad luck or something. So whatever that was, you were able to take something that wasn't good and shift it a little bit and turn it into something that's good, which is another lesson for people to be able to be adaptable.
Yeah, I'm, as someone that has been informed by Stoic philosophy, I have this, and the Bhagavad Gita. I believe in destiny. I believe our lives are unfolding in the way they're meant to unfold. I believe that everything is one, and that we're all integrated and part of one kind of universal whole, not just as a human race, but as just the every everything in the cosmos. So that
Mhm.
I love that quote about being, not a human being seeking a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings experiencing a human experience.
Yeah.
And
I have chill bumps.
yeah, so
I just love stuff like
I,
that.
you these, when we talk about, oh, I was really lucky, or oh, I was really unlucky, these are, human beings are just, we're creatures that make sense of ourselves, the world, and each other through narrative. And
Mhm.
it's all a story that we're telling ourselves up here. And I learned pretty early on that, when you choose your story, you choose your future. And so you can say, oh, I've experienced this, failure, this misfortune, this travail, or whatever.
Mhm.
And you can become the victim. And that's a story that you can tell yourself. And if you tell that story often enough, that story will become true.
Yes.
You can also tell yourself a story that life is never, completely fair or easy, and that when you are pursuing things that are worth doing, you will experience challenges and failure and obstacles. And these are opportunities as well to practice the virtues of patience, acceptance, humility, and build resilience. And that by embracing all everything as just an opportunity, as the fated moment that you're in, and it's yours to do whatever you want to do with it, you can live into a better story. And I think of my life as just this journey of emergence and becoming, and there's always more potential and possibility out there, but I'm always really grateful for the moment that I'm in, and the abundance that is made available to me.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I love that what we do overlaps, because one of my passions is helping people 50 and older use their lifetime of experience to either start a business or tweak the business they already own, to be happy. Because a lot of people own a successful business, they're very successful, and everybody thinks they have it made, but inside they're miserable and
Hmm.
they don't understand why. And it's because they never figured out what they really wanted. Most people just start a business and think, okay, how much money can I make, or how much money do I need? So I love that what we do overlaps with helping people discover themselves and how they can reach their own potential. But also, to me, a big part of that is having a higher purpose, not just helping yourself, but how are you making a difference in the world?
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought that up, because I think, you know, like you, I do work with people that have done everything right. They followed the roadmap. They went to a good school, they got good grades. They went to another good school, they got good grades. They started a business, got a good job, did all the things.
Mhm.
And the promise was, if you follow this roadmap, you'll be happy. And it turns out that these, status and salary and stuff does not really buy you
Yeah.
happiness. And that's not your fault, because that's what is on offer from the moment we exit the womb. It's what
Mhm.
society, our parents, school, and occupation makes available. But the people that we're working with are at a point in their lives where they've woken up to the fact that, oh, maybe this thing that I bought into is not the only thing
Mhm.
available. And if you earned a living doing something that didn't feel like it was sucking the soul out of your body, and you maybe even enjoyed a little bit of pleasure and joy in doing it, congratulations, great. And if
Yeah.
you want to continue to do that, that's fine. But we also have this opportunity in midlife to say, to reconsider, what does what does fulfillment and meaning actually look like. And oftentimes what I find, and I'm curious for your perspective on this, when I'm working with clients, I tell them that, these things that you've been pursuing, like fame and fortune,
Mhm.
are actually not ends in and of themselves. They're just kind of naturally occurring side effects of doing the work that you're meant to do. So
Yeah.
let's just concentrate on getting that part right. Like, let's identify the audience that you want to serve. Let's identify the offer that you want to make them, the difference that only you can make with and for these people that you seek to serve. And if we do that work with intention and integrity, it's likely that profits and status and passion and purpose and all these things that we chase as ends in and of themselves will just naturally occur. And then they
Mhm.
become renewable resources that we can keep baking into the work that we do, as opposed to finite resources that we can run out of before we actually achieve the success that we want to have.
Great points. Great points. And the fact that you help people develop a online coaching. And it's funny because I used to be an accountant. I don't. You may know this. When I studied accounting, I was really good at it. Passed CPA exam the first time. Hated it. There's a difference in being good at something and in doing it. And I was fortunate enough to be able to discover. It took me until I was like in my 30s to kind of start discovering myself and what it was that I really enjoyed and everything. And that also coincided with the internet, and so I started my web development company in 96 and ditched
Mm.
accounting. The thing for me about the web was I saw even then in the dial up days, this is something I can do from anywhere. And I can take all of my experience that I already had, all my entrepreneurial and business experience, and combine it with creativity. And it's funny because I didn't even know I was creative when I was younger. But now you're helping people do that very same or very similar at just a little bit older age. And so I think that I love that too, that you're doing the online thing, because that really opens up to me, it opens up the world to people because you're not limited in living in a certain place or whatever. I love that. Not that I want to move all the time, but I love knowing that I'm never, if I want to do something, I can, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I really resonate with that. My wife and I both work online, and one of the reasons that we started building our individual lifestyle online businesses was
Mhm.
we wanted to be able to have that freedom. In fact, we actually right at the beginning of the pandemic sold our house, moved across the street into a rental that became available, just so that we could, like, if we decided, hey, we're going to just pick up and
Mhm.
go somewhere else, it would be available to us. And then almost immediately afterward, my oldest son and daughter-in-law announced that they were pregnant. So in addition to this dream of travel, my wife and I have always dreamed about being full-time grandparents. So
Aw.
when they announced that they were pregnant, we decided that we were going to double down on figuring out not only how can we make a living online, but how can we make a living online part-time so that we can take care of our grandson
Yeah.
when the kids go back to work. And it's been just an incredible year for us because we are now providing daycare
Oh,
5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And, I get up, we were talking about this before we got on. I get up at 5 in the morning. I do whatever I need to do in terms of working my business. And then I give my wife the entire morning to do her thing. And
mhm.
then we trade back and forth in the afternoon, around my coaching calls. And, I can make a very good, monthly revenue goal by working just 10 hours a day with 10 clients a month, and get to spend all the rest of that time with our grandson. And so, what an extraordinary time we live in.
Yeah.
And the pandemic, although I there was a lot of needless suffering, and I am, deeply, profoundly
Yeah.
sorry for anybody that experienced any hardship or loss. Because of the work that I was doing with Seth Godin at Akimbo, I already had working knowledge of all the tools. Zoom was not brand new to me.
Mhm.
Creating online courses, creating online content. So it was just for me kind of a perfect storm where just when the entire world needed to figure all this out, I had been doing this already for several years and was
Yeah.
just positioned to help others do, basically what I have done, which is make a good living working part-time so that you can fund the lifestyle that will allow you to spend your time in the way that you want to spend it with the people that you care about.
Yeah, and that is a great lesson for people also because you recognized what you wanted your life to be like. Luckily, it happened to coincide with your son and his wife finding out they were pregnant. You hadn't moved yet and everything. But a lot of people don't even know what they want. Or they just start a business, like I mentioned earlier, they just start a business basing it on what they like or how much money or whatever, and they don't think about the big picture, about day-to-day life and how they want to live their life. And so what you and your wife have done is design your own life and create it and live it. And now you're helping other people do that. And I think it's wonderful.
Well, and that really, that insight of yours really speaks to something that you and I have learned from Nick Peterson, which is you define what does success look like,
Mhm.
and then you figure out what are the essential elements to make that happen, and how do you, figure out how to do that as effortlessly as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but a lot of times when people are coming to me, they have a podcast, they have a blog, they have 6 social media accounts, they're doing Facebook ads, they have a YouTube channel, they have funnel software, they have, all sorts of TikTok and Instagram strategies that they're paying for. And they haven't even validated their offer or audience yet. So
Yeah.
you, what does it really take to make a living online? You have to have a clearly defined specific audience, a niche that you're serving. You have to have a compelling offer that people actually want, and you have to have conversations with people that share your values and need your talents to enhance their lives. It's actually really, really simple. And
Yeah.
so you can eliminate most of the time 80% of the stuff that you're doing,
That's right.
and then get to do the thing that you love to do
Hmm.
for as much or as little as you want, so that you can fund this, to your point, this lifestyle that you actually want to live. I don't know what your experience is like, but I see too many people that are individual operators pretending that they're a big brand with a
Yeah.
huge ad budget, a staff, retail locations,
Hmm.
technical support and all this kind of thing. And they're just one person. Then they're doing it. You could work 10 hours a day
Hmm.
in your business and not be doing the one thing that your business is designed to do. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to be, to your point, really intentional about what's the goal, what is the
Hmm.
life that I want to be living, and what's the least amount that I can do to bring that to fruition.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do that, especially when we're older. If you've been in the corporate world, you come out of the corporate world and you think, okay, this is how it's done there. So I've got to surround myself with all this stuff. But going back to designing your own life, figuring out what your priorities are and why you actually want to work for yourself. For me, it was for freedom because I was a mom. Um, my We were taking care of my father-in-law who had Alzheimer's. So basically, I had 3 babies when I first started my business. But aside from him, I knew even when I was younger, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I didn't fit in the mold. And I did the corporate world for a good while, but I was like, okay, I'm not cut out for this. I didn't know what I was cut out for, but I knew I wasn't cut out for that. So for me, my priority has always been my family and being able to have the freedom to do what I want to do for them and with them. And then fast forward, um, 16 years after I started the business, and swings back around, my husband and I are caring for my mother with Alzheimer's. But because I built the business so that it was adaptable, it made it easier. Now, I will say that's when I made my biggest business mistake ever, but I also learned from that, you know. But that just goes to show you, y'all's priority was your family and being able to be full time grandparents. Somebody else's priority may be to be able to move all the time, to be a digital nomad. It may be to make as much money as they want, but they have to know what it is that they want first.
Yeah, and I love everything that you just said. And oftentimes we can set our sights on this dream that we have without a lot of actual lived experience and what it would be like to be living in that dream.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of taking like small strategic steps in towards things, and trying things on and trying things out, because sometimes, just one example would be, my wife and I love going we vacation have been vacationing at Emerald Isle every
Yeah.
summer since the boys were babies.
Mhm.
And we always had this dream, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a house on the beach? Well, it turns out that that's not really our dream. We don't want a house on the beach. We just want to be able to go to the beach. And
Right.
so, what we discovered is, being able to rent a place on the beach for 2 weeks or a month, every
Mhm.
year is actually, that's we're good.
Yeah, that's enough for you. You don't have to
It's a
deal with
lot
the
cheaper
sand.
than buying a house on the
Yeah.
beach. and trying to care for it. So I think, you don't know these things until
Right.
you start trying things out and you start to really think like, okay, what do I really want a beach house, or do I just want to be able to spend time at the beach every year? Because
Hmm.
there's easier ways to spend time at the beach every year than working your butt off to buy a beach house that you maybe never actually get to visit because you're too busy working your butt off.
So true, so true. And that goes along with the big house and the car and everything. And if that's what you want, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But too many people think that's what they need. And then they don't know why they're working all the time and they don't know why they're miserable, stuff like that. Something you said made me think of something I wanted to say. And now my ADD took over and I can't remember what it was. So you go to the next thing. And as soon as you start talking, I guarantee it'll pop in my head.
Well, it was as you were just sharing. I was meeting with a couple clients yesterday, and really just talking about this, and it's just amazing how from what I recognize is I I am I just had this superpower where I can meet with someone and help them remove all the cruft around their business and around their dreams and help them identify what they really want and help them define the most efficient and effective path there that only requires working on a few essential things and doing it much more effortlessly.
Mhm.
But when I try to do that in my own life,
Yeah,
I am the worst.
that's
I
how
mean, I
I am,
spent
Scott.
years
Yeah.
working 10 hours a day trying to build this thing that I was building, not even clear what I was building and making no money. And
Mhm.
I remember my wife just saying, this is a really expensive hobby that you're playing with. And I miss spending time with you. Maybe you need to figure out how to, and so that was when I hired my first coach.
Mhm.
And, it's funny to say now, but I was out there trying to sell this coaching offer, and trying to get people to invest in them, trust themselves and invest in themselves and the difference I could help them make. And at the same time, I was not willing to trust myself and invest in myself to do the
Yeah.
same with a coach of my own. And so I think I guess part of my point in sharing that story is, we're all complicit. I, we have this thing that my clients and I say, people are fascinating and nobody is more fascinating than the person that you look at in the mirror every day. Like
Yeah.
we have this ability to
Excuse me.
construct narratives that really impede
Yeah.
progress into the thing that say that we actually want to do. We have this amazing ability to make really complex strategies with all sorts of things that just are productivity time traps that we're
Mhm.
spinning cycles, creating content, podcasts, whatever. It really doesn't take that much, but if you can connect with the right person that helps you see just a little more clearly and helps you start to step with just a little bit more curiosity, consideration, and confidence into the life that you're really meant to live. It can be such a boon to your not just your success, but your sense of joy, equanimity, and well-being. Um, Finding that meaning and fulfillment that we all really crave as human beings. That's why we work. We work
Mhm.
because it's how we forge identity and build meaning in our lives. So why not figure out how to do that as efficiently and effectively as possible by working with someone that can help you get there?
Totally agree. And I would say that the biggest mistake, other than the big mistake I made when I was caring for my mother with Alzheimer's, the other second biggest mistake was I did not work with a coach until like 4 years ago. I know everything. I can do it all. And I mean, I don't want that to sound egotistical, but we think we know, but we're all too close to our own stuff. So it's the old thing, you can't see the forest for the trees. And while you were talking, I did remember the other thing that I was going to say. And that was that people like us, and like most of the people that we work with, we don't need that many clients, you know? And so when you think about it, why are you doing all this stuff? And why are you trying to impress everybody in the world when you may only really need 2 or 5 or 10 people, depending on what you do and how it's structured? And so concentrate on that and concentrate on what moves the dial.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I love that because I actually just one day while my wife and I were out having brunch at a little outdoor spot here in town, broke down all the different ways that I could make $100,000, starting with, well, I could sell, I could sell 100 things at, $1,000 and just kept breaking it down. And I don't know if you're familiar with Kevin Kelly and his 1,000 True Fans, but
Mm-hmm.
that's his approach is if you can find 1,000 people that will invest $100, and the difference only you can make with and for them every year, you're actually making a living. And I started applying that to my life when I was a musician.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, especially in rural America,
Oh, yeah.
really a challenging way to decide that you're going to make a living. But, when you start to put the boundaries and guardrails and set your goals, and then, establish strategies that only concentrate on doing the things that are necessary, you can find ways to do that. But the needle really moved for me when I finally started working. My very first coaching experience was with a music business coach named James Taylor, not that James,
Not be James Taylor.
but
Okay.
the son of a fairly famous jazz guitarist named Martin Taylor.
Okay.
And he just, he opened up my eyes to the idea that, yeah, you can make a living as a musician playing 300 nights a year, for $100 a night, or you could do $100 a night or 100 nights at, $300 a night.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's, we have to the DIY model doesn't really work. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
if you think that you're that intelligent that you can reverse engineer all this stuff on your own, good luck. I don't think I'm a dummy. I couldn't do it on my own. And it wasn't
Yeah.
really until I started investing in the help that I needed that I was able to move into the kind of life that I really wanted to live.
Mhm. I tell people, Tiger Woods has a coach. All these great athletes have coaches, and it's not because they don't know what to do, but they need somebody objective who can look at them from a different angle, and so there's really no difference than that in being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think a lot about this because I have been a teacher for many years, and even when I was teaching guitar, I discovered that I was actually approaching it more as a coach. So a teacher has information and knowledge that they can drip out through a curriculum, through a program or whatever. But coaching is something very, very different because what coaches aren't instructors or teachers. They're people that help you see your hidden wholeness, that you are sufficient and possess everything you need
Yeah.
just as you are, and help you see your blind spots, see the opportunities, and help you step into your potential to grow into the possibilities that you imagine for yourself. And it's not just about asking profound questions or holding people accountable. I think my approach when I'm working with clients, when people say, well, can you tell me a little bit about the way you work? And I say, well, there's going to be a lot of empathetic antagonism. And they always say, well, what does that mean? I say, well, I'm going to, in a very kind, compassionate way, get under your skin just enough to get you to see the things that you haven't been seeing, that you probably placed in your own way, and
Mhm.
then to start to rethink and navigate your way over, around, or through them so that you can actually clear the path that is laid out right in front of you that you've actually been complicit in obstructing up
Yeah.
until this point. And so I just think that, just finding, you need to, whether it's formal coaching, informal coaching, mentorship, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you need to find. One of the coaches that's informed and inspired my life is Marcus Aurelius, and he's a dead Roman emperor from 300 BC.
Yeah.
But we have these people all around us that
Mhm.
have done the things that we want to do. And if we, bring their wisdom into our lives and help allow them to help us, if we have the humility to allow them to show us the things that we are doing that are actually impeding our own progress, and we can get to where we want to go a lot faster.
So true. And I also love being a part of a mastermind, like the group that we're in. That's so awesome because you meet different people all the time. You learn so much from people. I mean, we happen to be in similar businesses with kind of similar clients, but I mean, the group that we're in, it's like people from all over the world in all different kinds of businesses, but everybody kind of has the same core problems, and you can figure out a way to learn from each other. So that's another thing that I highly recommend to people is figure out a way that you can find a group of people to get into. And I hate network sounds so dry because, that's handing out business cards, but people that you can really have conversations with and get to know and learn from.
Yeah, that was something that I learned very early on from being in Seth's universe, was this
Mhm.
idea of putting together a small group. And I really credit the beginning of my journey to a mastermind that, there's four of us, and we all came from very different backgrounds and domains. And we all had very different creative endeavors that we were trying to build. But, every week we showed up and said, well, here's how I did on the goal I set for myself at the end of last week's session. I'm going to celebrate a win, going to
Mhm.
share a challenge and get some perspective on it. Set your intention for the following week. Hot seat ideas that you have that you want people to find the weaknesses and holes in. Hot wash things that you've done that you need to learn from,
Mhm.
or amplify and leverage. And that's available to every single person on the planet. We all know people that,
Yeah.
care about us and have that consideration and insight to share. And it can be such a powerful amplifier for stepping into your potential.
And the accountability is so important because I know for me, I can have things like I'm going to do whatever, and the next thing I know, it can be 2 and 3 and 4 weeks, and I haven't even started it because I always, everybody else is more important than me. And so when you do have people that you are accountable to, even if it's you going, "Oh, I didn't do it," it makes you at least be more conscious of the time passing and, oh my gosh, I don't want to admit I didn't do this, so I at least need to do a little bit of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we are social creatures by nature. And
Mhm.
so, and when we make a vow to someone, it really can make a huge difference in whether or not we accomplish what we say that we're setting out to accomplish. So I couldn't agree more. And I think, that mastermind that we're a part of is a very diverse group in terms of background and industry.
And
But
age.
yeah, but how much do we learn, from someone with a seafood distribution business?
Yeah. Mhm.
But yet there are these lessons and ideas that we glean that can help us become better at serving our coaching
Mhm.
clients or building our coaching business.
So since with COVID, have you seen like a common theme with your clients? Is it a lot of people that have had to leave the workforce or just got sick of it and wanted to? What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's all of that has been, there's been so many things that the pandemic has kind of shine a light on. And Yes, I think it's highlighted some of the things that are really wrong with the way that the world of work is constructed. And, a lot of people got really turned on by this idea, like, oh, we can work at home and do it over Zoom. But I gotta also school my kids, so and then there was the all the things circulating around, social justice that were really amplified by the pandemic. So I don't think that there's any I don't think that there's any one consistent theme that runs through all of my clients, except for the thing that was true before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and will be true after the pandemic. And that is that we have built institutionalized systems around education and occupation that are really outdated and out of alignment with the way that humans actually thrive and flourish and find meaning and joy in their lives. And again, just because of the age group that I'm working with, people that are 40 to 65 or so, that's when you have your midlife crisis, right?
Yeah.
So, but the crisis is not that you married the wrong person or you had the wrong job, or it's the crisis is all around this idea that you actually did what you were supposed to, what you were told to do.
Yeah.
And it turned out that it was a false promise that didn't really deliver, that this pursuit of happiness actually doesn't lead to happiness. A lot of the folks that I work with have experienced, some sort of crisis, some sort of fall. And when that happens, and this was my experience as well, when you are broken, you can choose to remain broken, or you can be broken open and open up your heart and open up your mind to, there may be another way to live out the rest of my days in a way that does bring me the true joy and happiness that I'm seeking, by doing work that matters, that aligns with who I am, what I'm good at, and where I belong, that enhances the lives of others. And that if you can, again, I call this the difference only you can make. And what I often say to people is, don't die with the difference only you can make still inside. Wherever you are, you have the opportunity right now to make a decision to start living your legacy and start continuing to work like a dog, so that you can leave some money and monuments behind and leave a legacy of some sort. I think legacy is we will be much more fondly and better remembered for the difference we made while we had the opportunity to do so than we will be for the money and the monuments that we leave behind.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, BK Fulton was on my show a couple months ago. Do you know him?
I'm familiar with the name for sure.
Yeah, so he's a movie producer, media, all kinds of stuff out of Richmond, a retired Verizon executive. And I loved it when he was on the show. He made the comment that life is meant to be used up. And I love that, because there's so many people that are like saving up, their energy and everything for someday. And we all know someday never comes. There's always a reason to put things off. And I would say another thing with that I see kind of a common thread is a lot of people who are older, they fall in that trap of thinking, I'm too old, it's too late, or they feel, especially if they've come from the corporate world and maybe they were laid off or whatever, they feel shattered and they feel like, why would anybody want me? I'm irrelevant. And so we really have to remind people that our age brings wisdom, and younger people need our wisdom and we need their fresh eyes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's every generation has, both its baggage and its unique perspective. And I love working with, Gen Z millennials because, and I'm the father of a couple of millennials.
Yeah, me too. Or the mother.
They're not buying it, right? Like they get it. Like, oh, I'm going to, put myself in debt going to some sort of famous school so that I can then get a job that doesn't really fulfill and fuel me, so I can,
So I
make
can pay off the debt that I
right,
got
so I can pay
into.
off
Yeah.
the school debt and then put myself in more debt by, getting a house and an expensive car. And they're looking at these old institutions and systems that they recognize don't really work anymore, but they may never have worked. But um, but at the same time, those of us that are at the very end of the boomer generation, I opted out of playing the game fairly early and did kind of do my own freelancing encore or entrepreneurial thing. We have, I can really glean lessons from the way that they're looking at the world and the possibilities that they would like to see made available to them, and have the wisdom and experience to say, actually, you can craft the life of your dreams if you live in this country,
Yeah.
because we, despite all of the political and social and economic turmoil, there is always opportunity here, especially if you're ready to not just follow the herd and follow the script that was, written for you by someone else to serve their purposes. But if you decide that you're going to write your own script to serve your own purposes, you can actually make that happen if you pursue that with intention, with integrity, have clear goals, specific, efficient, essential strategies, and invest in tactics, mindfully and ethically, and just thoughtfully, and you can craft a life that you want to have.
Yeah, write your own script. Love that. What is, from all of your, from going from teaching to coaching to musician and coaching and everything, what do you feel like is like the core lesson that you've learned through all of this?
I think that when I became a musician, it was because I I just had a conversation with my wife. My first son had been born.
Mhm.
Um, I had bumped around doing some things that I was good at, but didn't really make me happy. I loved playing music. I just felt called to it, and I remember having a conversation with my wife. I just wanted to try this,
Mhm.
and we have enough set aside that if I did this for a year, and nothing happened, we'd be okay. And I could always pick up a new teaching gig or a new straight job. I just don't want to be, basically I was saying, I don't want to be this age and wondering if I could have done something with it.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
so, we made an agreement that I was going to do it every day that I could do it. And as long as I made enough to do it again the next day, I could keep doing it. It turned out that I did that for 30 years. But I remember getting started and I was living in Charleston, South Carolina at the time. I was playing with so I was in my 20s, my late 20s, and I was playing with a lot of musicians that were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Mhm.
And they were not happy people. They were a little bit bitter and jaded, that, never feeling like they were getting the breaks, getting the good
Yeah.
gigs. The audiences didn't appreciate them. Nobody's playing. We're not playing enough of my songs. And I was like that kid going, holy cow, I get to do this, and
Yeah.
so I just remember early on having that sense of gratitude, and also like understanding that this job was about service. And I would tell my bands, serve the song, don't make the song serve you. Your job is to create a joyful experience for the audience. And if you serve the song, and if you do it with and for the people that are out there, we're going to be okay.
Mhm.
And for a lot of years, my band was the most popular working band in that town. Worked all
And
year.
that was in Charleston.
It was in Charleston. I mean, so I'll just tell one quick story. So some of the people that opened for my band were Edward McCain, who became a pop star.
Mhm.
Jump Little Children became a recording artist, and Hootie and the Blowfish.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And all of those bands went off and actually made it, right?
Mhm.
And but yet my band was always the headliner.
Mhm.
And I remember one year the newspaper always had a best of the city, edition. And we never were the best of, like we were never voted the best band or whatever. But one year they made a special category for us, and it was the best band in Charleston that will never be signed to a record label. And my band was crestfallen. They're like, "We're not
Oh,
going to make it." And I was like, "Guys, look at us. We're a bunch of broken down old guys playing blues. You think that we're going to get
yeah.
signed to a Virgin? And this is great. They're actually saying that we're really good, and maybe
Uh-huh.
we're too good to, be in that world, but this world's pretty good. Let's just keep this thing going." So, for me, just that the neuroscience and the psychology proves it over and over and over again. If you have gratitude for what you already possess and are grateful for whatever opportunities and misfortune life throws your way, but leverage them in a way that helps you grow and develop and become a better person, you will lead a good life. And so that has served me through my music career. It's served me through building this coaching business. It's something that my clients over and over and over again tell me, that daily reminder of gratitude for what I already have is just such a great way to start my day, such a profound lever for keeping me happy,
Mhm.
healthy, motivated. I just think that's that's something that anybody that's tuning into this conversation could take away and employ in their lives right now, and they would see an immediate boost in their mood.
Yeah,
And,
for
and
sure. Another way I've heard that, the actor Glenn Morshower, we were talking on Clubhouse one day, and he said every morning he starts his day going from like his toes to the top of his head, like thanking his body, thanking every part of his body. And then he said, and if I'm really busy and I don't have time, he said, I always give thanks for my belly button, because if it weren't for my belly button, I would not be here. And I thought that was so cool, because it just goes to, everybody's different and everybody has their own way of doing things. But it just goes to show you that we do need to be cognizant of what we do have in life, instead of always thinking about what we don't have. And those band members, I was going to say, they're probably typical of a lot of entrepreneurs. If they had gotten that big deal, they might have realized this life is not the life I want to live, on the road all the time and all that. It's like people see the good parts of what they want. They don't see the day-to-day grind of it.
well, I had the opportunity to meet and play with a lot of famous musicians over the years, and I would, always say, "Oh, you're doing so great. You got your second record coming out, or you appeared on Prairie Home Companion or whatever it was."
Mhm.
And the ones that got it would always say, "You know what, man? Same bullshit, different venue." And
Yeah.
that always really stuck with me because, to your point, fame and fortune aren't very worthwhile goals.
Yeah.
What they are amplifiers. And what I have found is that people that were miserable human beings before they became rich and famous are even more miserable human beings after they become rich and famous, and happy, thoughtful, generous, kind people before they got rich and famous, after they become rich and famous, are even more so. And so, you need to really decide, circling back to earlier in the conversation, what do you really want? Because if what you're chasing is money and fame, you're never gonna get enough of that to fill that emptiness that you're trying to fill. But if you try to be a good person and live a good life and do meaningful work that actually makes things better for the people that you care about, fame and fortune will probably come, and
Mhm.
that will just be a resource you can continue to bake into what you're doing so that you can spread that abundance and opportunity even more so.
That's a great place to end this conversation. I love it. I can't top that, Scott. So tell everybody if they're interested in working with you, tell them how they can find out more about you and how they could go about working with you.
Sure. So the Art of Encore Living programs all exist at my primary website, which is called Creative on Purpose. It's creativeonpurpose.com. There's a free quick start guide if the idea of Encore Living appeals to you and you are thinking about building an online business, specifically a coaching business in midlife. That guide will help you get started. And of course, if you would like to take a bolder step into possibility and work together, you can get in touch and do it that way. I have lots of material on Amazon that's available, a couple of best-selling books there. And if you Google my name, just ignore everybody that's a politician or a basketball coach, and I'll be up there in the top three. Um, and I'm always, grateful to hear from people that have heard, some of the things that I have to say that resonate, and would love to hear from you at scott@creativeonpurpose.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. And I can't wait till we can get together in person at Floyd or at Catawba.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're practically neighbors, so we'll make that
I
happen. And
know.
it's been
Yeah.
a real privilege and joy to spend this time with you, Lisa. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. And now I was so tired before we came on, and now I'm re energized.
Me
So,
too, although I think I'm still going to be going to bed very soon.
yeah. Yeah. You have to for that baby because you got to get up early. At least I don't. My husband gets up early. I wake up and then I'm like, I go back to sleep. So, all right, Scott, I'll talk to you later and I will see everybody else next Tuesday. Thanks.